Hi, I'm Jay, and I'm a massive nerd. Oh, wait, hang on. No, that's the wrong script. Hang on. Here we go. Hi, I'm Jay, and I'm a really cool guy. And like all cool guys, I like Pokemon. Being specific, I really enjoy competitive Pokemon. So much so that at one point I did actually participate in competitive VGC. Now, I was never particularly good at it, hence why you've never seen me sitting across the table at a world championship against Wolfie. But I've always enjoyed watching competitive content, and fantasizing about one day making it in the big leagues. Now, after falling down a content rabbit hole on YouTube one night, I discovered a new competitive Pokemon format known as Draft League. For those of you who are unaware, a Pokemon Draft League is a competitive format that consists of around 16 players known as coaches. Coaches draft a team of typically 10 to 12 Pokemon to compete in best of one week by week battles against one another. Now, what's to stop you from building a crazy team of overpowered legendary Pokemon and sweeping the draft? Well, first of all, there's a ban list, so the Pokemon that are deemed too strong or ridiculously powerful are not allowed. Secondly, each Pokemon is assigned a point value from 1 to 20, and each coach is given a pool of points to select their Pokemon. And once someone drafts a Pokemon to their team, it is removed from the draft pool, and no one else can use it. Now, this piqued my interest. It sounded like a fun and semi-casual way to enjoy competitive Pokemon. So I decided to put in my application for the third season of the Terminus Championship League. And thus, the Adelaide Axews were born. Now, being the maniac that I am, when I get invested in something, I get very invested. So I spent the entire weekend leading up to the beginning of the draft planning out a fun draft team. Now, I knew that people would be able to take Pokemon that I wanted before I could get them, so I prepared backups, and backups of backups. And in the end, I had a pretty interesting team planned out, based around a strong, high point Fairy Dragon Steel core. Then came draft time. I was placed third in the pick order, so I was pretty confident I'd be able to get at least one of the two first picks I'd planned around, and I felt no real need to change my strategy there and then. So when it came to my turn, I was excited to be able to pick up Iron Valley. Oh, wait, that was picked already. Alright, no worries. So instead, I picked up my backup Pokemon, Dragapult. Oh, wait, no, that was pick 2. Well, I guess my entire draft plan is out the window. With both the best Fairy type and best Dragon type in the draft gone in the first 2 rounds, I had to do a complete 180 on the fly. Being so early in the draft, I wanted to take advantage of the high point Pokemon that were available. So while I could have picked up another strong Dragon or Fairy type, I decided to take Shempao, a Dark and Ice type legendary from Scarlet and Violet. Shempao boasts an absolutely massive speed stat in 135, along with respectable bulk to back up its even more respectable 120 attack stat. Alongside its ability Sword of Ruin to lower the defense of opposing Pokemon, this Pokemon hits like a truck with Stab, Ice, and Dark type moves. With both Substitute and Swords Dance for setup, and priority in Ice Shard and Sucker Punch, this Ice Cat becomes a massive threat at even +2 attack. Backing all this up with useful supporting moves such as Brick Break to remove screens and Ice Spinner to deal with terrain, Shempao is a very powerful threat that's incredibly difficult to switch into. With my second pick, I still had no real direction that I wanted to take my draft, so rather than attempting to think too hard about what I wanted going forward, I planned on picking generally strong Pokemon that I was excited to use. Hence my next pick, Hisui and Zoroark. Zoroark was one of the Pokemon I really didn't want someone to take from me. From the beginning of the draft, I was excited to use it. With great speed and attacking stats, as well as decent bulk, Zoroark on its own is a solid Pokemon. But the real reason this Pokemon shines is thanks to its incredible typing, with 3 immunities, and its ability Illusion. Illusion allows Zoroark to come into battle disguised as the Pokemon in the last slot in the party. Pairing this ability alongside Shempao, who's 4 times weak to fighting, allows for some very interesting mind games with my opponent. Zoroark also has every move you could ever want from a Pokemon like this, with strong stab options in Shadow Ball and Hyper Voice, as well as great coverage moves such as Flamethrower or Sludge Bomb. This Pokemon can threaten anything that switches in. It also has access to great supporting moves such as Taunt, Trick, and Will-O-Wisp, and can use both Calm Mind and Nasty Plot to sweep opponents. Other notable moves such as U-Turn, Foul Play, and Knock Off make this Pokemon such an amazing pivot Pokemon when used in coordination with its ability. For my third pick, I thought it would be a good idea to start working towards a strong core for my team. Since I already had some Pokemon in mind for a Fairy Dragon Steel core, I decided to try and work that back into my new draft plan. And so, wanting a strong Dragon type for my team, I picked up Garchomp. Now just look at these stats. That's all. I'm done. No, but seriously, Garchomp is a famous Pokemon for a lot of reasons. The biggest one of those being its insane stats. A crazy 130 attack stat alongside great speed at 102 and incredible bulk that should never have been allowed on a Pokemon like this. But it isn't just a big bundle of stats, this thing's move pool is ridiculous. Amazing stab options with Earthquake and Outrage, plus Hazards, plus Setup, plus Screen Removal, and even Weather Control. Garchomp can literally do anything at once, and with the insane coverage this thing gets, no one can do anything about it. Like seriously. Fire Fang, Thunder Fang, Aerial Ace, Metal Claw, Iron Hit, Brick Break, Shadow Claw, Body Slam, Poison Jab, Rock Slide, Stone Edge, Crunch, Liquidation. I rest my case. Moving on from Garchomp was another Pokemon to help fill out my Fairy Dragon Steel core, but I also wanted to start a Firewater Grass core down the line as well, so I managed to grab up Azumarill next. Azumarill. The Pokemon that basically has one ability. This thing does no damage without huge power to boost its attack, but Azumarill interested me. I thought it might have some pretty interesting use cases in this format. With possible immunity with Sap Sipper and some great resistances to Ice and Fire with Thick Fat, this thing can be a great pivot into certain team comps. With moves like Light Screen, Encore, and Sing, this Pokemon could prove to be pretty annoying to deal with, alongside Recovery in the form of Rest and Draining Kiss, and in the right situations, this thing could prove near impossible to deal with. Add in Speed Control with Bulldoze and Icy Wind, and Attack Reduction with Charm, the 3-turn timer forced by Perish Song. Azumarill can be quite strong when it comes to stopping an opposing sweeper, and given the fact that this thing can just set up a Belly Drum right in your face and trailblaze you into next week, it might even sweep on its own. I think it'll prove to be a pretty interesting Pokemon to use. Now wanting to finally grab a bulky Steel type to round out my core, I picked up Magnezone. Magnezone has insane bulk, a crazy high special attack stat, plus a million powerful stab options to take advantage of its great typing. Sure, a ground type move is gonna hurt, but Air Balloon exists, and with Sturdy, maybe I don't even need that. With moves like Reflect, Light Screen, Thunder Wave, and Volt Switch, Magnezone can be a potent bulky pivot, but give it choice specs, Flash Cannon, and Thunderbolt, and this thing starts one-hitting things. It even has Body Press and Iron Defense if you want to get a little wacky. Next up on the list, wanting to continue to fill out my Firewater Grass core and include some more hazards on my team, I scooped up Colossal. Bulky, hazards, hazard removal, good attacking stats, and only 3 points? Yes, please. Colossal helps fix my lack of hazards and hazard removal, as well as giving me another bulky pivot Pokemon to help with my lack of defensive options. Alongside being great with hazards, with moves like Will-O-Wisp and Reflect, it can make any opposing physical attackers almost useless. In certain situations, Colossal could even set up as a sweeper, with Steam Engine taking a water move boosts its speed to +3, and Iron Defense and Body Press with its already monstrous defense stack can make this thing terrifying. Taking a look back on my draft so far, I realized I really needed some sort of ground immunity, especially with both Magneton and Colossal being 4 times weak to ground. So next I drafted possibly my favourite Pokemon for the team, Haunter. Now Haunter is an interesting Pokemon for a few reasons. The first is that it has 2 immunities, being Fighting with its Ghost typing and Ground with its Levitate ability. It's also quite interesting because of a certain rule set used in this draft league that I haven't talked about yet, and that's Terra Captains. In this draft league, only certain Pokemon are allowed to terrestrialize. Specifically, only Pokemon valued under 10 points are allowed to be selected as a Terra Captain. You're allowed to have 2 Terra Captains on your team, but both must collectively be 10 points or less. Having Haunter as a Terra Captain at only 2 points allows me to later on pick a Pokemon 8 points or less to be my second, and Haunter itself I believe will be quite strong in this format. Being able to terrestrialize Haunter is interesting because Gengar can't terrestrialize, and since its bulk is the only thing stat-wise that has changed between Haunter and Gengar, a max special attack Terra Ghost Haunter with Shadow Ball actually does more damage than a Gengar does without terrestrializing. Although its defenses are severely lacking, that makes less of a difference when its main use is going to be outspeeding and killing things. With great coverage options like Dazzling Gleam and Energy Ball, Haunter can become really threatening to a lot of different Pokemon when running different Terra types, especially with a Choice Scarf. My next pickup was to try and fill a few gaps in my team. Firstly, I wanted another ground immunity. With such a big ground type weakness on my team, I felt it was important to give myself some solid options when it came to dealing with them. I also wanted another fast Pokemon to fill out speed tiers, as well as a second fire type, since, because of its rock typing, Colossal doesn't resist grass. So I took Talonflame. Talonflame fills a lot of roles that I was missing within my team. Firstly, it fills out a big gap in my higher speed tiers and means I have to worry less about a lot of faster Pokemon. Second, it provides a lot of resistances and an immunity that are really helpful. It also just has a lot of utility that's great help with my current lineup. U-Turn, Defog, Tailwind, Will-O-Wisp, and strong priority with its ability Gale Wings. It's overall just a strong Pokemon that helps to glue some pieces together. Next up, I wanted some more hazards on my team to try and control the battlefield a bit. I felt that a grounded poison type would be helpful to remove toxic spikes set up by my opponents. Coupled with 2 ground immunities, I felt pretty safe picking yet another Pokemon weak to ground, Revavroom. Revavroom? 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 Revavroom. Revavroom was an interesting pick for me. It's a great defensive Pokemon with a strong typing that resists 8 different typings on its own, and with its ability Filter, it can even take super effective attacks well. It also provides me with Toxic Spikes, which is one of the better forms of hazards, since the poison it provides can rack up damage very quickly. Access to one of the best moves to ever exist, Parting Shot, provides some great pivot potential and allows for a relatively safe switch-in thanks to the lowered attacking stats. Revavroom can also be great for stopping an opposing sweeper with Haze and Toxic, while posing the threat of sweeping itself with one of the best setup moves, Shift Gear. Getting towards the end of my draft, I felt I needed a strong fighting type to give me some more type diversity. I also thought this would be a good time to select my second Terra Captain, so Gallade was my next pickup. While obviously not as strong as its Mega variant, being able to terrestrialize allows Gallade to be used as an incredibly versatile attacker. It has a strong physical attack stat with decent speed, as well as some great setup potential with Swords Dance, Bulk Up, and Agility. But the thing that really takes Gallade to the next level in Draft is its absolutely ridiculous access to strong coverage moves. Fighting and Psychic is already a great offensive typing, as there is only one type that resists both of them, and that issue is easily fixed with a Terra Dark Night Slash. On top of Night Slash, it also gains access to Aqua Cutter, Fury Cutter, Leaf Blade, Aerial Ace, Sacred Sword, Psycho Cut, and X Scissor, which are all boosted by its ability Sharpness. Since in the draft format you have access to what Pokemon your opponents can bring, this wide range of moves allows me to tailor this Pokemon to whatever purpose I think suits the matchup. In addition to the offensive pressure that it can provide, it also gets access to a massive number of supporting moves, such as Light Screen, Reflect, Thunder Wave, Trick, and so many more. This Pokemon can just do so many different things and makes it almost impossible to predict how it will be built. Finally, wanting to finish off my Firewater Grass core, I scooped up Lilligant as a special setup sweeper for my second to last pick. Lilligant is likely one of the least exciting Pokemon on this team, but while it has a very simple game plan, it does its job very well. It has great all-around stats, and Quiver Dance by itself is more than enough to make this Pokemon a massive offensive threat. It has a lot of strong stab offensive options and some very interesting supporting moves like Healing Wish, Leech Seed, and Worry Seed that can turn it into a niche cleric Pokemon in the right circumstances. As my last pick rolled around, with 4 points remaining, I wanted to make sure I got as much value as I could out of this last Pokemon. I scoured my team for any weaknesses or typings I was missing, any roles I thought needed filling, and finally, I decided on Tyrone the Spidops for 2 points. Now, before everyone gets mad at me, yes, I wasted 2 points, and yes, I wasted my other 2 points on a Spidops, and no, I do not regret it. At least, not yet. In all seriousness though, Spidops adds a lot to my team. It gives me a dedicated hazard Pokemon, which I was missing, and it gives me access to Sticky Webs, the best hazard in the game. In Pokemon, speed is everything. It's the reason speed tiers are so important, and the reason that moves like Icy Wind and Sticky Webs are so strong. Spidops is the speed control king, in my opinion. It not only has access to Sticky Webs, but also its signature move Silk Trap, which acts like Protect while also lowering the opponent's speed on contact. It also gets access to Pounce, which also lowers speed, and U-Turn, which allows it to provide some switch initiative after lowering something's speed into the ground. Even if you can't get Sticky Webs off, can't use Silk Trap, and don't outspeed to use Pounce, Spidops also gets access to great priority moves with both First Impression and Sucker Punch, allowing it, even in the late game, to switch in and take a KO. I think Spidops is secretly powerful in a draft format, and hey, if I'm wrong, I can always trade him away mid-draft. Sorry, Tyrone, but if you aren't pulling your weight, I'm leaving you in an alley somewhere. But that rounds out my first ever Draft League team, the Adelaide Axews. Let me know how you think I did for my first debut, and what you think I could have done differently. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'll be heading up against my first opponent soon enough, and I can find out firsthand how well the Axews are going to do, so look out for that in the near future. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, go down there and show me some support. It's greatly appreciated, and I put a lot of work into this one. I plan on trying to release more content after such a long break, so keep an eye out. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.